Good evening and you're welcome to the Business and Enterprise Show, Ireland's only live web-based business TV programme with over 2 million views throughout the world. And as always, we're coming to you live from our state-of-the-art studios in the Cavan Crystal Hotel on the Dublin Road here in Cavan. It's that time of the month again. We have the Cavan Chamber in with us kind of to give us an update of what's happening in the town and what's happening in the economy and what's happening in chambers, not only in Ireland but also worldwide. I have a double act with me tonight. I'm joined by the CEO, Andy Pearse. Andy, as always, you're welcome. And the Chamber Secretary, Michael Geraghty. Michael, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I think the last time we were in, we kind of just did a quick background of what the Chamber is. It's basically a body that looks after the interests of businesses, to a certain degree, the citizens in the town. To that extent, quite recently, there was a meeting where the public, members of the public, as well as business people, got the opportunity to come in and voice their opinions of what was happening in the town, what they wanted to happen in the town, and what they wanted those in charge of the town to hear about. Michael, you kind of chaired that meeting for your sins. What are the main topics that came up?
Well, the meeting was convened by the Chamber, and it's an annual type of a meeting for a simple reason that this is the time of the year that the local authority is preparing its budgets, its plans, and its proposals for the calendar year 2016. And it's an opportune time for we, the business people of the town, to get together, air our views, air our criticisms, no doubt, and seek a meeting with the County Council in the course of their preparation of their budgets and plans. And we'd like to have an input into that. We have suggestions. We're conscious of the town, its needs, and the needs of the businesses, and how we think it can be improved, enhanced, and to achieve that, of course, we need the assistance of the local authority. So it is from that we held a public meeting back in the early part of the month. It was well attended by Cavan standards, and many proposals, suggestions came forward, which we have noted and will be the substance of a meeting that we hope to have with our new county manager, Mr. Colgan, and his executive over the next couple of weeks.
Now, how big of an input do chambers, not just in Cavan, but throughout the country, have in these plans? You know, I suppose to a certain extent, a lot of people make proposals to TDs, to governments. The proposals are welcomed. But is it because Cavan is such a smaller metropolitan area, is it easier to influence what's going to happen? In other words, will they listen to you?
Yes, they will. They will take on board. They are trying to serve the needs of the population of Cavan and Cavan Town, as well as the other towns and villages around the county. They are anxious to know what views are coming from the town. They want to know what problems we have. Can they be solved? Can they be eased? Can they be improved? And of course, we are all in the business of enhancing Cavan Town, its businesses, its streets, its infrastructure, and that's a two-way thing. So we're all working in the common good and the common interest.
Now, the traders and, to a certain degree, some of the residents that turned up at the meetings, what were some of the issues that they raised?
Well, of course, once you call a meeting like that, business people are first and foremost concerned about the items that affect their business, the payments that they have to make to the local authority, which are, number one, your property rates, number two, your water rates, and number three, the impact of parking fees in the town. They are outgoings that we all have to meet and pay up on an annual basis, or where parking is concerned, perhaps on a daily basis. So we have views and we have opinions on all of these fronts. Of course, where rates are concerned, because of the abolition of the town council, we now have to deal with the county council as the overall umbrella body for the county, and thankfully it is expected that in the reclassification of the rates rural and town, that the urban rates may over a period be coming back down to an equality scenario where the county rates are lower than the town rates, so we're coming to over a period to even out that level of rates that we pay.
So we have an advantage of being a small country town.
Yes, indeed, and
normally we try to make ourselves like a metropolis.
No.
However, at this
exactly,
meeting,
well,
we're a small country town.
Exactly, So they're the three items, and of course we.
And again, just going back down to them rates, water rates and the parking fee. What did again? We'll just take them one by one. Can you influence what is being charged, in other words, in the rates and in the water rates, by the meeting? And thirdly, just on the parking, what's the biggest issue? Is it the parking fee or the ability to park? If I wanted to run into you and book a whirlwind cruise, and I can't park, the nearest I can park is 100 yards away. Oh, this is ridiculous. How will I walk this far? Or is it the fact that I have to stick 50p or 60p into a metre?
Okay, I'll deal with the parking in a moment anyway, but the overall rates, the rate is struck by the local authority body of councillors, and that comes from the estimate prepared by the manager and the executive, and it's a follow-on from last year, but there has to be, the government has an input into that, into the grant that they give the local authority. So the amount of money that has to be raised locally fluctuates a little bit up and down. So you still want your services provided. We still want roads, we still want public lighting, we still want our good water schemes and our good sewage schemes, good housing and all that. So that's the price, that's what your money is going for. But we don't want to see it wasted. We think it could be often spent better. So, but that's the rates that's the rate scenario. So we do have an input, and we'll make our views known to the manager in that context. The question of parking is always contentious. There are two elements to it. What do we pay? What do people coming in to do business in Cavan Town pay? What are they getting? And could it be done better? Now, most people are well aware that we have a multi-storey car park in the town. It's a very costly item that rests very heavily on the finances of the local authority. But is it its location? Is it its design? Is it the idea of safety in it? What is causing the situation that the multi-storey car park is not as utilised to the extent that it should be? That's one of the great problems. If it had a 70-80% occupancy all around, day in and day out, it would make a very significant difference, but it is not achieving these rates at this particular.
What is the occupancy rate? Ballpark.
I think that there are 400 cars parking spaces in it, and 70-80 might be sort of a max.
So 20-25%.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 20. Yeah. So that has to be addressed. As we go to the meeting, we have a number of suggestions to put to the manager as to how it might be redesigned, how some of the features that are causing people to be, shall we say, a little bit worried about going into it. It's dark, it's sharp edges, and people don't like leaving doors hanging on concrete, and it's many floors and 7 or 8. So there's a lot of travelling up and down, so it's not easy getting in and getting out and getting around. So we would hope that would be addressed. The fallback on that then is, of course, what the visitors to Cavan pay when they put their 40 cents or their 60 cents into the meters. Is that too much, too little? How do you measure it against other towns in the immediate vicinity? The great fear of the business people that to regularise this imbalance in income, that the council might decide to start pushing up the rates for parking, and I don't think that would be met with with any great love. We wouldn't think that would be the way to go at the present time. So it's a complex issue, and then you have the out of town in the shopping areas around the town. You have the sort of free car parking, which is working to the disadvantage of town centre as well. So that's another item that has to be. We could have a good discussion with the council on that one as well. Going back then, we hope that we're coming to the end, or we will soon see the end of the construction works for the new sewage improvement works, which we think and we hope should leave Cavan Town infrastructurally sound for the next decade anyway. And in doing so, to be able to take on board any new development of whatever significance may be attracted to the town, be it business or...
You're saying there that it's glad to see the back of it. It was a nightmare.
Well, it was, but I think in general terms, it was well managed. I think that we had one or two of our chamber people who liaised with the contractor, and I think a lot of the bottlenecks that historically might have happened were not evident this year. Of course, there were bottlenecks and there were problems, but I think they were of short duration. And the scheme moved, just section by section, and here and there was a bit of bother, but I think in the overall, it was well managed.
So the items that were raised by the individuals and by the businesses at the town meeting, they'll be brought to the attention at a chamber executive meeting with the people that count.
Yes.
Now, will there be a report back? Will we find out what's going to happen?
Well, you will see that on two fronts. You will there will be a report on the minute with the management, and that will be brought to the chamber, and then we probably will make a statement on it then. The outcome, of course, which is what it will all hinge on, is when the local authority prints its budget proposals and its development plans for the coming year. It's there you will see what work will be done, not done, whatever. Yeah.
Of course, this meeting, this will be very much like an American town hall meeting that you'd probably be very well used to, Andy.
Yeah. It was actually the first time I've been to a meeting like that in Cavan, so I was quite impressed. I mean, people were certainly vocal. They had opinions. They were clear on what was important to them.
Yeah.
And in fairness to Michael and to Eddie, it was very well managed and well handled. I was kind of wondering when we came in what it was going to be like. Would people actually get up on a high horse and I mean, get a little animated in their complaining about things like the rates? But no, Michael was very good at explaining what the situation was, and the meeting went very, very well.
Now, we might come back to the town meeting, but a couple of things have been happening since we last talked. I suppose one of them was the budget. It's you probably don't know who Gay Byrne was, but he was the original Late Show man, and his catchphrase was "one for everyone in the audience." And you would be hard pressed to find somebody who didn't get something out of this budget. Might have been very small, and to an extent that when we have minister speeches and then we have opposition speeches, they were kind of hard pressed for things to pick at. From a business point of view, what did you think of the budget? What does the chamber think of the budget?
Well, this might be another good one to defer to Michael. I know, interestingly, IBEC, for example, in their coming out in the few days after the budget, said that by 2016, the average employee should see about 3 weeks extra wages in their pocket. This would be by sort of December of 2016. And they're looking at the variety of things, including the incentives that are given to employers. It's going to be interesting to see how that actually does materialize. I think by and large, nobody really expected a big payout, and no one really got it. But there are a couple things that came out, I think, certainly that would be of interest to the chamber and of emphasis to the chamber and chamber members, and that was particularly at this time of year with the vouchers and the voucher scheme. And one thing that they did in the budget was to increase the allowance, the tax-free allowance for vouchers for gifts for employees, for businesses who want to who give something to their employees at the end of the year that's tax-free. They raise that limit from €250 per employee to 500. So that's a big difference, and that allows employers to actually put something, you know, I suppose, back into their employees' pockets, which is a good thing. You know, if it helps people to feel good and to feel a bit better at the end of the year.
Is it tax-free on both sides, employer and employee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my understanding. So yeah, that's a big bonus and a big incentive.
And it's a big incentive here in Cavan because the Chamber does have its own voucher scheme.
That's right, and certainly any company, any business that is a member of the Chamber is free then to accept those vouchers, and they're at absolute no cost to the business. So the face value of the voucher that's given in, the business would just come to the Chamber and claim that back. So a 20-year-old voucher is that they're not losing anything. There's no premiums. There's no deductions, anything like that.
Vouchers, there's lots of vouchers out. The post office do one. The name escapes me. But they do one.
One for all.
Oh, yeah,
One for all. Sorry,
yeah.
thank you, Michael. A font of knowledge is this man. What's the difference between one for all and chamber vouchers? What difference does it make to the town?
Well, big differences it makes to the towns. First of all, is there's no expiration date on the chamber vouchers. They're good for as long as they're out there. So if you still have an old voucher in your wardrobe and you find it, you know it's still good. You can still use it in the town. And then also the one for all, even though they say one for all, is still only good at a limited number of providers. While the chamber voucher is good at a wide variety of businesses and services and things. And like I said, anyone who's a chamber member that that provides services or goods or retail goods to the public is free to take the vouchers and to claim them. So, but it also means then that money is money that is kept here in Cavan. So if you take it to some of the larger multiples, use the one for all card, for example, that money may get paid in here, but it could wind up in the UK or somewhere else in Europe. Yeah. But money you spend with your Cavan vouchers will stay here in Cavan. Yeah. So that's the biggest advantage.
The logistics of it. Anyone wants to know, want to get some vouchers. How do they get them? Where do they get them from?
Well, one of the easiest ways is simply call the chamber office or call into the chamber office between 11 and 1, Monday through Friday, or they can certainly be got at Eason's as well in town. Is there anyone else, Michael?
No, Ethel in our office will have responsibility for handling the voucher scheme.
In some evening.
Exactly. So call Ethel in the office, call in, and she'll send them in blocks of €5, 10, 20s, whatever.
So you can get a small denomination as well.
Yes.
So Cavan is a multi-domination.
The other, I think, negative thing about one for all, as Andy said, it's a limited number of points that accepted in Cavan Town, and I think then there's a charge for the people who buy them. You know, if €50 for the person who receives it, I don't think he gets 50. I think there's a charge on it, so it wouldn't be the most productive one. Yeah. But the chamber one is entirely for the business of Cavan Town, and I would say I could be a little bit optimistic, but I think we could maybe target about €100,000 worth of vouchers in late November, December 2015, which would be.
But the 100,000 staying in Cavan.
That's right.
That's the critical thing. That's the critical thing.
Are they Christmas vouchers or are they all year round vouchers?
All the year round. But of course, the enticement is buy it for your staff or buy it for a gift for Christmas. That's the period. That's the high point.
So I suppose businesses buying them, you know, you're talking a win-win situation. They get tax relief. The employee gets tax relief. I suppose the fact that they're giving out vouchers, employers may be a little more generous than hard cash, and it's staying in the town. So, like,
yes, you would hope so.
Yeah.
Yes, you would hope
so. So, from a town point of view, from a business point of view, the vouchers are great.
That's right. So certainly would encourage their use, and certainly would encourage employers to consider them when it comes to things like gifts or bonuses this year. The fact that you can double it means that you can really maybe make a difference. Yeah.
So it really was a giveaway budget. They're even giving away budget. Speaking of giving away, I think today is, I'm not sure whether it's rounding day, rounding up day, or rounders day, but today is the day we lose our pennies and twopences, but then we don't really lose our pennies and twopences. It's kind of an Irish solution, you know.
Yeah, Rounders. If we're going to turn it into the sports show, we'd have to talk baseball. 'Cause my Royals are in the World Series here tonight. But no, rounding. The 28th. The 28th is the day that rounding goes nationwide. It was actually experiments.
I think they would have rounded it to the 30th, but however.
But it was experimented on in Wexford, I believe. It was a project between as a national government and the Chambers Ireland. And the businesses in the county, and there they had they felt they had really good success, and of course then it was decided to roll it out nationally. Now, interestingly, I've been hearing about this in my shop for the last 3 years. People have been coming in and saying, "Oh, you know, they're doing away with the 1 cent and the 2 cent coins, right?" Which is not the case at all. No coins have been done away with. They're all the 1 cent and 2 cent coins are still going to be legal tender. But what it does is just giving retailers in particular the opportunity, if they so wish, it's voluntary, completely and strictly voluntary, if they so wish, to, when a purchase is totaled at the till, to round that to the nearest 5 cent, either up or down, in order to, I suppose, decrease the amount of change that they have to handle, that they give to their, that they give to their customers. So it's completely voluntary. There's been a lot of confusion around this, and people have been asking, and I've heard this on the radio, so am I going to have to go through and reprice all my goods so that they all end in 5? And of course the answer to that is no.
No or not yet?
No. Well, no.
No.
It's not a not yet, because the rounding is right now, the rounding is just at the till of the final purchase price. Whatever your total is, you just round that last little bit up or down. So it actually should, in principle, be quite easy for businesses to do. So, anyway, I guess we'll just see how it actually rolls out over the coming weeks. And just some interesting things, I think.
Is there a downside to it from a business point of view?
Yeah, it's hard to see. I don't think so.
Unhappy customers.
No, listen. When I came here to Ireland the first time, one of the things that really attracted me to Ireland, because I'd never seen it anywhere before in my life, and that is you walk into a store and they total it up, and it's €20 and 20 cents, and they say, "Oh, sure, €20 will be fine." Right? So anyway, I'd never run into that anywhere before.
I assume that's the policy in JB Hope.
Well, it is, certainly. We would certainly do that as where we can. And that's one reason I kind of was surprised by this, that there was any sort of negativity at all. But also, interestingly, it's one of those things we've seen disappear in the last number of years. I think probably really towards the end of the Celtic Tiger, and certainly since, is that businesses stopped rounding, rounding down, or actually go to the nearest euro at that time. I don't know what you remember, Michael, how that works, but so it would seem to me that it would be quite a natural thing for people to do, to be able to round it. I'd be surprised if they rounded it just to 5 cents. But anyway, some interesting things that came from this, because Chambers Ireland, we had a discussion around this about what we might see and what some of the things might be that happen. One question that came up was, would charities see a loss? Because often it'd be those 1 cent and 2 cent coins that would come into somebody's hand that would go into the box there beside the till. And so the question was asked, well, gee, will that mean that they're going to have a serious knock? What they discovered, certainly in Wexford, was that wasn't the case, that the charity donations actually went up. So maybe they started getting more 5 cent coins as opposed to the 1s and 2s. So that, I thought, was quite an interesting one. The other question comes is, of course, is at the service stations. Because the service stations, you think you go, everybody, well, maybe not everybody, sometimes people would actually, instead of stopping at €20, they might run it to 20.02 or 03. And I've heard people who run service stations talk about people who run it up to 8, or 9, really chance their arm. Interestingly, it'll be interesting to see how service stations manage that, because now once you go to 03, technically they can round it to 05 and would not be seen as overcharging you. And certainly 08 could go to 10
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting one as well.
But it's unusual that it's voluntary. My first reaction was a typical Irish way of handling things. But then I thought the smoking ban. You know, there was no, we'll allow smoking. No, there's no smoking. The introduction of the plastic bags. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
From tomorrow, there's no more free plastic bags. If you want one, I think at first it was 15, now it's up to 23p. And it was just in, bang. Now it's, if you want to do it, you can. And if the customer objects, he's entitled. I don't know if the customer is entitled to object. And sure, well, we won't be getting rid of the coins anyway. I heard it on the news this evening. It costs us more than a penny to make a penny. It costs us more than 2p to make 2p. So, like, what is the point of them? Why not just say, right, from the 28, no more 5p. Nothing smaller than a 5p.
It'll be an interesting one because I think you'd probably need to be an actuary to really figure out the example of what it means. Smaller businesses like mine, it's not going to amount to the whole much in the course of a day or probably in the course of a year. But when you are looking at a business that has thousands of transactions a day, and those thousands of transactions mean rounding up or rounding down, it's hard to see exactly what that will mean in the overall, the cost to the business. And so I think some of that will just have to be seen. And then again, where systems are computer controlled, again, what will it take to actually allow that? Can the employees override it at the end of the day to make that rounding?
Yeah.
These are things that I suppose we'll have to learn. I'm not quite sure what was found out. The other question was credit cards, right? What happens with credit cards? Does it apply to credit cards?
Apparently it doesn't. It is only cash transactions,
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the public are a little wary because, Michael, you've kind of been around, dare I say it, a smidgen longer than I am. So I know I've seen us change to decimalisation, although I know I was at school at the time, and we had a great little scam because if you remember, a new penny was worth 2 old pennies and 3 old pennies. So we used to bring in 2 old pennies, get a new penny, and you could change them back or forward. So you go into another shop and you look for your 3 pennies of it. But
How long did it last? How long did it
a
last?
day before they copped on.
You got your penny bar at the end of the day.
So we went decimalised, then we went from the the pound to the punt, and then we went from the punt to the euro.
Yeah.
And every time it has gone, the public have felt, shall I say, it probably was not the case, but have felt that they come off worse. And that's something businesses will have to kind of watch out for.
Well, I would have thought that every business who's dealing is sort of in the low coinage, I think at this period and for this particular project, I think they will err on the side of their customer. I don't think the penny or the 2 will make or break a deal.
Yeah.
And if a customer's satisfied going out the door with 2p in his pocket, so be it.
I think me and Michael have a similar era. Tuppence. He's looking at us saying, what's this tuppence that you're talking about? Well, as always, time flies on the Business Enterprise Show. That is our show over. Again, Michael Geraghty of the Chamber and, of course, Cavan Travel. Thank you for taking the time to come into us. And Andy Pearse, the CEO of the Chamber, thank you for your time. And hopefully we'll see you, or see somebody from the Chamber next month when we can kind of see what's happening in Cavan and what's happening in the Chamber here in Cavan.
Thanks for having us.
So that's been it. That's been the Business Enterprise Programme for this evening. I've been Colm Colgan. Do tune in next week. Good night.